What's up? Welcome. I am so glad you are here listening and spending time with me today. Release Your Inner Power talks about life, the trenches, the decisions, and the wins that we have now, today, and that have experienced in our past. There are stories, encouragement, tools, and tips to take those next steps to release that inner power and connect with something that is said or someone, a special guest maybe, that will boost your week. I am your host, Shauna B. Here we go. My next guest is Paula Schuster. She has left the corporate environment after 25 years, has become a certified life coach, certified sound healer, Reiki master, teacher, and podcaster. She is a mom, a wife, and a business owner. She has so many awesome, amazing things to chat about authenticity. She helps other women as well clear patterns of unworthiness, self-loathing, and rewire limiting beliefs. She is such a gem, and I cannot wait to introduce you to Paula Schuster. Welcome back to Release Your Inner Power podcast. We have a lovely guest today who is near and dear to my heart. Her name is Paula. Welcome, Paula, to the show.
Thank you so much, Shauna. I am just delighted to be here. I just have a lot of admiration and respect for you, so I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I'm excited to have you on. I always like having people that are near and dear to me on because it's so interesting when you know some of people's stories and things about them and like, where's the conversation going to go and how exciting it can possibly be, you know, like you're just, right. I don't know, there's an excitement in the air for me. So
good.
Since I know a little bit about you, tell the listeners who Paula is and how she got to where she's at today.
Okay, well, kind of broad. So, I'm a mom and I'm a wife and I'm a healer. I do, I'm a coach, I'm a teacher, I'm a lover of life. I love to learn. And in terms of what I do for coaching and healing, I'm a life coach and a business coach. I specialize in helping people love themselves so that they're confident enough to be their authentic selves, because that's really the most recent journey that I've been on. And I'm a Reiki healer and a sound healer, and I haven't always been those things. I worked at a large financial institution for like 26 years. So this is more recent, sort of me coming into my own authenticity and changing my life in big ways. So yeah, that's, I guess, a little bit about me. I mean, I just love to love. I have a big heart and I'm kind of hippie-ish and I'm a free spirit, I guess.
I love that. I love that. Tell me more about, you said in big ways. Tell me, give us a big way that you have moved into, what you said, like working through being your authentic self. Tell us a little bit about your journey through, your momhood and through this, corporate world into what you're doing now. Like, give us some of those big moves that you had to work through and come out, in your amazing authentic self on the other side.
Sure. Well, geez, when I first became a mom, I was, in corporate America, and I was drinking the corporate Kool-Aid big time, and I was the breadwinner in our family. And so I had always wanted to be a mom, but I don't know that, oh geez, if I had it to do all over again, I would do it so differently, especially when the kids were younger. You know what I mean? But I was still so much in my conditioned self when I first became a mom. So I was always worried about what other people were thinking, and how we looked on the outside, because that's, what was sort of big in my household when I was growing up. My mom, there was so much trauma going on in my household when I was a kid, but as long as we had our dresses on for Sunday church and we had our hair curled and bows in our hair and our black Mary Janes on, everything was okay. You know what I mean? Yeah. As long as we looked good on the outside. So I was just very much in my conditioned self. And I mean, and I was in a marriage that was very unhealthy, and was getting worse and worse. And I was out of state so I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And at the time, my job had taken us out to Arizona. And that's where both of my kids were born. And my son is autistic. And so, we were dealing with sort of that extra in our lives, managing all of his therapies and things like that. And I was so just in this mode of do, and I wasn't very present as a mom, I guess I would say. I wasn't as present as I wish now I would have been. But, I needed to go through all of that to get where I am today. And anyway, I knew that I wanted to show them a healthier relationship, show my kids a healthier relationship than what they had going on. And so I had about, I was like 40, and I'm like, I want to be happy. I don't want to stay in this icky relationship where I'm unhappy, and I have like half my life to live still. So, I'm getting divorced. And so I moved us back to Minneapolis, and then got divorced soon after that. And probably where my authenticity journey really started was the first person I fell in love with after I got divorced was a woman. And so I came out as a lesbian because once I was in love with a woman, I was like, all of these things started flooding back of, oh, this is why this was when I was 13. And, like, this is why all of these things, right? But I had grown up in a very strict Catholic home, and that just wasn't a thing. Like, I didn't even know lesbians were a thing, but that was probably the biggest, or the start of my authenticity journey was when I came out as a lesbian. And I think I was 41 when that happened. I went through a couple of relationships before I found my wife, who I'm married to now. And she was another like big part of my authenticity journey, because she was like the first person who, and I'm going to get choked up about this. She was really the first person who loved me for just me, no matter what, the icky addictions that I had, the angry, reactive person that I was. She really loved me anyway. And that was another big part of my authenticity journey, because I had the space to just be me and to work through all my shit. And then I started, and that's really, she was a big part of helping me, loving me through my addictions, and giving me the space to just have them. And then that really put me on the road to recovery. I smoked cigarettes for 33 years. I was an alcoholic for 36 years. I was a almost daily user of cannabis for 39 years. There were about, different times in my life where I didn't use cannabis as heavily as others, but, and now I'm clean and sober from all of those. And cannabis is my most recent, addiction that I've gotten over. It's only been about, I would say, about 3.5 months since I've been clean from that. But so my wife was a big part of that authenticity journey. And another big catalyst in my journey was getting trained and attuned to Reiki healing. That happened for me in 2020. And I had like a big bang awakening experience during that week I went on a retreat to a place in Mexico, which I'm headed to in just tomorrow morning. And my whole life changed in that 7 days. I literally came back a different person. I didn't eat the same. I didn't talk the same. I didn't care about the same things. I didn't dress the same. Like, my teenage daughter, like 2 days after I was home, got right up in my face and said, like, who are you? And I said, I don't know, we're finding out, because there was just like so much healing that had happened during that week, and just shedding of layers and conditioning. And like, I literally during my Reiki 1 attunement felt myself coming home to myself, like literally felt my soul coming home to my heart. It was just this beautiful, powerful, profound experience. And so that was a big catalyst, and sort of going, whoa, like, what am I doing? I'm not living my life for me, and so that helped me to start to make changes. And then I went back to this place and was trained as a life coach, and there was more healing and more shedding of layers, and more me coming into my authentic self. And I was becoming a better mom throughout all of this whole journey, right? Because I was comfortable in my own body, comfortable in my own skin. I was on this journey to loving myself again, because I was pretty horrible to myself for a long time, a lot of years. And as I found more peace within and started loving myself, I was able to, and as I started putting myself first, I was able to then be a better mom, and serve others around me better. And so I became more patient and calmer and more understanding and flexible as a mom. And just I all of the things that I guess I am now, that I'm really proud of as a mom, compared to, I'm much more present, than I ever was before all of this journey started. So, and then I still had a lot of limiting beliefs. I'd gone through all of these healing experiences and was really putting in the time and work on myself, and really being devoted to my spiritual practices and meditation, and taking time for myself and putting myself first. And I still had, quite a few limiting beliefs, and which had always held me back my entire life. And so it was just last year that I just spent a lot of time and effort investing in myself. And so I hired my first coach, and even though I had been a life coach for a few years by then, I hadn't yet hired my own first coach. And so that was really life-changing. And that really helped me rewire my limiting beliefs, and like get to the root of where they came from, so that I could change them and say, why am I doing this to myself? And so that was just more healing. A lot more healing happened as I went through this program last year, this 12-week intensive program. And then as I've become, then I took this podcasting program, which is where you and I met, Shauna. And that was another sort of big catalyst in me becoming more authentic to who I am, because I always had this I don't know, vision, I guess, within me, or this thing in me where I knew that I would be doing something with my voice, whether it was singing on a stage or talking to bigger groups of people or whatever. And it, for now, right now, for me, how it's manifesting in my life is podcasting. And I was really freaking scared to start a podcast and to use my voice in this way. But as I've stepped out and done it, like, it just has, it's another sort of window into my true self. And it's just been really expansive, and it's just really awesome. It just brings me a lot of joy. So yeah, I mean, I guess there's been some other things along the way that have been big things in my journey. Like yoga was a big part of it because it got me out of my head and into my body. And so that was another big part of my journey. But I think I hit on most of the things.
I mean, I love this because I would love to dive into this more if you're okay with this.
Yeah, let's do it.
So when you were saying, like there were some big moves, and you were saying like, you realized like during certain things, like during your divorce, and then like the move, and then when you met your wife, and when you fell in love with a woman, all of those big moves that you were saying, it's I felt like at one point you said, I felt like I wasn't living my life for me. So then you would be changing it. So tell me more about in one or some of those moments when how did you know? Like, what were you feeling? Like, how did you know you weren't living your life for yourself? And then where to go from there? Like, when you made these big moves, how did you know that, like, oh, this is for me, and moving on with that? Because I feel like through these moves that you were making, each one kind of opened up more opportunity for you to see more things, and to be able to keep taking steps towards yourself. So how did you like know to guide yourself in the direction that you went? How did you know it was, your true authentic self?
I guess I wasn't necessarily like aware, aware of it during a lot of those moments. The whole thing about me not living my life for myself, that really, like, I became aware of that when I was attuned to Reiki in 2020, in the fall of 2020. And that was really like oh my God, literally for the last 35 years of my life, I've been living it for other people. And because I was checking the boxes for, that I thought I had, that, was sort of society's expectations. And, like, I remember when I was younger, I wanted to go get a bunch of tattoos and piercings and like be a massage therapist. And who knows where that would have led me. And my parents were like, no, you got to go to you cannot put tattoos on your body. You can only pierce your ears and you have to go to college and get a good job. And so that's the path that I went on. And I didn't realize that, that it really wasn't my choice. I mean, I did and I didn't, once I got on that path, then I was just all in on that path. And so I really wasn't like aware until I, had this awakening experience in 2020. And then that's when it was really like looking back and going, wow, this is like my whole life. It's been basically for everybody else. And I was a big people pleaser, and I was very codependent, and, looking for validation and acceptance outside of myself everywhere, like it was never within. Like I didn't even know who I was. And even that didn't really unfold until the last couple of years, when I quit my corporate job and I went all in on my own business, and I started to sit down and say, okay, who am I? Like, this is kind of scary. I don't know who I am, because I was always looking to externally to see, how should I think about this? How should I feel about this? How should I dress? How should I do this? Like, it was never within, coming from within me. And so in terms of like, how did I know, like, for example, when I fell in love with a woman for the first time, it just felt right. It was just, and then when I got into bed with a woman for the first time, it was like sparks were just flying everywhere. And I'm like, oh, this is what sex is supposed to be like. Because it had been so difficult and so mechanical kind of for me with men. And I was like, okay, this is, I know I'm supposed to be here. It was just sort of realizations along the way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. And I think you bring up a great point, because you were saying, like checking on the boxes, society norms, what you've been told, like, these patterns, programs, if you will, of, your family system and the beliefs with that. And so you don't know any different except for until you start exploring, right? Until you start venturing out on your own with thoughts or things you like to do or what have you. And until you do that, you don't really know You're just kind of doing the thing. You're just, okay, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I'm just doing the thing. And then I feel like you said, without realizing it, you were going back to yourself and getting some awareness, but not really aware that you were getting them. You were just like, oh, this is the right way. This is the right way. So you were getting some kind of, like message to yourself that this is the right way to go. And I feel like some people are like really good about that, and they just like have all these awarenesses and they follow it. And then some people are just get them and they're just like, okay, I'm going to do the thing. And then it's like you, where it's like a train almost, where it just starts moving and it gets faster and faster because you keep doing the things that are aligned with you along the way without realizing it. It's like you're like the fog is being lifted as you're taking the steps. And
Yeah.
I love that you had those awarenesses without realizing it at first, but then coming into it and being like, oh my gosh, like look at, like you said, turning around and looking at all these things. It's like kind of like how I think of it as like pictures flashing before your eyes of situations that you may not have even thought about for like 15 years. And then when you pick the right way, it's like showing you, like, here you go. These are all the supporting reasons of, why you're moving in this direction. And I think that that's such an amazing thing to have and see, because then it's like validating for yourself, not like outside validation that comes in, which when we are lost and in the fog is what we look for. Like you said, people pleasing, validation from others in the outside, just to try to get us moving, when in reality that power is within us the whole time. We just have to be willing to use it, let it out, and see it. So
Right.
I love that you brought that up, because I do think that by and large society does just check the boxes. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Well, what do you want to do? You know?
Why? That's why I was, that's why when I interviewed you on my podcast and heard about your journey, like I was just like so amazed and impressed and like curious about like, because you had all of those things like within you from at such a young age. And it took me, like I was in my late 40s, early 50s when all this stuff started, like clicking for me. I was one of those people where I did all the things society said to do. And I had all the things that society said that should make me happy and successful. I'm using air quotes, right? And I was deeply unfulfilled and unhappy. And yeah. And so I'm like, there has to be more to life than this, like ick.
Right. And it's similar for me. Like when I was in the trench, if you will, I had that exact thing. Like, this is it. There has to be more than this. This cannot be it. And I almost feel like that's the question you have to ask yourself, right? Like, hello, what else could be, and kind of like crack open that box, if you will, and try to be like, well, it's really whatever you want, but you have to be willing to check in with yourself and follow what you actually want. It doesn't have to be checking all the boxes. It doesn't have to be, what has been said to you the whole time. Like, what if what if you don't want to go to college? Just because everybody else goes to college doesn't mean that's the path that you have to do, because, everybody's on it. Like if you became a massage therapist, you became a massage therapist because that's what you want to do. You know what I mean? And it's interesting how we have an internal battle without realizing it, because of those things that we were raised in and all those patterns and stuff, that when we start to do the different thing, we almost feel like the rebel and like the black sheep and the person that's going to go against the grain, when you're really just trying to live through yourself. So you have to clear up those battles as well. But I think you did a really good job of working through it, even in the beginning when you didn't realize you were working through it. I think you just did a really good job of, like keeping on with your steps and moving towards the thing, and not necessarily realizing like, nope, this is my beacon I'm going towards, but you're like, this feels right. So I'm going to stay on this course because this is where I want to be, and not
Yeah.
over here where it was like, no, I want more than that. So good for you for that. Cause I love it when people come out of the fog. I think it's great. I think it's so amazing and awesome, because there's so much more opportunity and life that you don't see because you're in it, and it's totally there and it's totally possible. So awesome for you for doing that for yourself.
Thank you. Now I am more in tune to my intuition. All my years in corporate America, I was just so in such a like a stress state all the time that I wasn't hearing my intuition, or if I was, if it was there, you know, I wasn't listening to it. Now it's like I wait and listen and watch and go, okay, and I pay attention to all the things, right? And then I just follow the breadcrumbs, and now I'm like super in tune with my intuition, and it is more, I'm more cognizant, you know, that I'm doing it than I was, you know, before.
Yeah. When you said that when you started figuring out like putting yourself first to fill yourself up and like really like be in tune with that and follow the breadcrumbs, you became a better mom, you became, you know, a better wife, a better person. Like, tell me more about how you like was there like a scenario or situation that happened with you where you were like, oh, where it was kind of like the light bulb going off, if you will, of like, this is because I am taking care of myself and putting myself first. I'm able to be more present. I'm able to do, you know, XYZ because of that.
Yeah, it was like when I started doing it and I started seeing the difference in me, right? So, it was just, it was a little bit before I quit my corporate job and I started meditating. I wanted to get into like a consistent a consistent practice with my meditation. And, um, and it was hard because I didn't have time in my mornings, you know what I mean, to do that. And it was, and so that was, I went to bed a little bit earlier. It was one of the first things I did. I went to bed a little earlier, and then I also took a little bit of time out in the morning from work. At the time, I was working from home, and so I just said, well, you know, F it, I'm signing in a little bit later, you know, and and I saw the change in me. Like I was just like more peaceful on the inside. I had the space that I needed when there was something really stressful coming up with the kids or something that would typically irritate me. And I just had more space to just respond rather than react. And a big part of that too was for me also realizing that I was trying to control everything, and that caused a lot of suffering in my life, you know, instead of just accepting what is and letting things just go, and then accepting what is and just going with the flow. So it was kind of the combination between the two, you know, the meditating and that which gave me more peace on the inside, and the space and ability to respond rather than react. And then just sort of realizing like, okay, like this isn't how I wanted it to go, but I'm just going with it. I'm just accepting this. And like everything changed between those two things. But it was starting to put myself first in the mornings. I started doing other things too. Like I started writing all these different things on my bathroom mirrors for self-love mirror work. And I started telling myself in the mirror that I love myself. And I just had all these sort of non-negotiable things that I would do before I would do things for my kids in the morning or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big, huge shift for many reasons. One is to like, you know, people that haven't done that before and they're like, you want me to write stuff on my mirror and talk to myself in the mirror? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
It sound like I remember I was one of those people. I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to talk to myself in the mirror. I'm not going to, you know, write myself notes. I'm not going to like, that is not going to do anything for me. Why am I doing that? Like, I was such a brat. So
Yeah.
like that, I'm not going to do it. And then, kind of like with you, I had a big change in my life and I was like, what do I have to lose? If they're saying I have all these benefits to gain from doing it, why would I not just try it? Because it's not going to put me, it's not going to make me feel like crap. It's not going to put me in a bad state. So why not try it? And if I don't like it or whatever, if it doesn't do anything for me, then okay, it's not for me. But trying it, at least I tried, right? So then
Yeah.
I started doing it, and then there started to be a change. And I'm like, wait, I'm more this and I'm more that, like with my kids and my life. And I'm like, like a stubborn toddler, like, okay, fine, it worked, like, okay, fine, it worked. I'll do it some more or do it in my own way. Because you can tweak it in your own way as long as you're doing the thing. It doesn't have to necessarily be the exact way that you were taught. It can be however way it works for you, as long as you're doing the tool, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's so important as when you do something like that to fill yourself up, like you said, to feel it and know, like, whoa, look at all this, look at the difference that it makes, but then like knowing to do more and take the time for yourself. Because we make time for everything in our lives that is important to us. If it's our
Yeah.
family, if it's our job, if it's, going to your kid's sporting event or some event at school, you're going to make time for that. So you need to make time to fill yourself up. So good for you for being like in the morning, getting up, I'm going to do these things to fill yourself up because you're like at full charge battery right from the gate. And
Yeah.
then you're like, okay, here we go. I can handle this, and you can handle it so much better by doing that for yourself first. So I think I love that. I love that you do that. I think I morning routines are amazing. They're just
Yeah.
amazing. It's such a life-changing experience. And until you do it, I was one of those dig my heels and I'm not getting up early, sleep, blah, blah, blah. And then I did it and I'm just like, whoa, it like totally shifts you to a different level.
It does, yeah. And thinking back to your question, probably the biggest thing that I did, um, that was the hardest for my kids, to put myself first was when I quit my corporate job. Because it was really like, so I had started to make all these changes in my life and I felt the difference and I was getting better, but like I was still in stress mode, a large part of my day. And I was literally toward the end, like I had a very demanding job. I was a leader, one of the leaders in the organization, and I worked a ton. And so that was still, it was like this fight, right? Because I had felt this, started to feel this internal peace and all of this, like, filling myself so I could fill others around me. But then I was still going into this corporate environment every day that was very stressful. And it was like this cortisol drip inside my body, inside my body. And so it was a big deal because, again, I've been the breadwinner my entire life, and it was a huge change. There was a lot of more no's when the kids were asking for stuff, and it was a bigger impact on my daughter than it was on my son because he's just a more simple kid, and doesn't ask for much. And so it was really hard on my daughter when I chose to leave corporate America. And even though like we were going to sell the house and we've tried to sell it a couple times, it hasn't sold yet. And we're going to be doing some work on it, and then we're going to try and sell it again here in the spring. And this whole time, like we're still in this house, but my daughter has felt insecure. She still has these feelings of insecurity because I'm not making the paycheck that I was back then. So it's still kind of a thing, but like I had to choose that for myself because that was like my mental health was at stake. Like I was literally going to kill myself if I stayed in that job.
Oh yeah,
It
I'm
was
sure it
going
was
to kill me.
extremely,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like extremely draining on your body, mentally, physically, emotionally. I'm sure it was like, if it's not for you, you can feel it for sure.
And I had those feelings all along the whole 26 years, and I wasn't listening to my body. It was like, I just thought that I had anxiety and that I didn't like speaking in front of people and, all this stuff. And it was like, no, you're really in the wrong place.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that and leaving something that you've known for 26 years is super scary. So, I mean, that's
Yeah.
like a huge win because you did it like you did it scared,
Yep.
and did it anyway. And then, coming out on the other side, you're feeling so much better and so much happier because of it.
Oh
Right.
my gosh. Like I'm a totally different person. I did a post the other day. Um, and it's all about how I have this life that I can't wait to wake up for. I
Yeah.
used to say I hate my life a lot. I used to say those words a lot. Now I say I can't wait to get up for my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in this post I put, and anyone who knew me when I was in corporate America, we need to be reintroduced because I am a completely different person.
I would be really curious to see like what your old coworkers, like if they reach out and talk to you. I'm really curious like what they would say because they worked with you before and then meeting you now. Like what their interaction would be and how they would, respond to how different you are. I think that would be kind of a cool thing to see.
It would. I would. I know, well, what I think I know what they would say. Number one is, whoa, she's way more calm. Because I was
Yeah.
like pile of stress, man. And I was drinking the corporate Kool-Aid hard. I was towing the line, and it was like, we have to do this and we have to meet this metric and blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, we should be happy.
You're like metric schmetric.
Yeah. Peace and love, baby. Peace and
Yeah.
love.
Yeah. Yes, I love it. So tell me more about your healing and your Reiki and how you help others with that, what your business is since you've left corporate and now you're doing this. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So I'm a Reiki healer. I teach, I am a Reiki practitioner. So I give individual treatments. I also teach Reiki, all the levels. And, Reiki is just such a powerful and gentle healer. I love it so much. And when I started my business, I really had stepped out more with Reiki than with coaching because that's where my comfort level was. And now I'm really wanting to build more of my coaching practice, especially with the journey that I've been on in the last 3 or 4 years. I really feel equipped to help other people who are the same as me, who are living their life for everybody else and never feeling like they're enough and never feeling like they're worthy and always checking the boxes for everybody else and really not being true to themselves because, everything changes when that happens. So anyway, I'm doing a lot of coaching now, helping people with self-love and authenticity. But I'm also finding that the clients that I'm attracting need help with their businesses too. And I've always had really good business mind, really good business acumen. So I'm not surprised, I guess, that that's happening. I just was sort of wanting it to be this certain way and it's sort of coming in this other way. So I'm just allowing it. And then I'm also a sound healer. So I was recently went through a certification program for that. And so I'm hosting Reiki sound baths locally here in my community with other Reiki masters and with other sound healers. And it's just such a beautiful healing experience, sound. And when coupled with Reiki, it deepens. Each of the two modalities deepen each other. And so it's, people walk away just feeling calm and relaxed and rejuvenated and, just sort of, taken care of on a body, mind, spirit level. So yeah, and then I'm also a podcaster. So that's what I'm doing nowadays.
Yeah. So I want to dive into that too. So tell us a little bit more because we like you said before, we're in a group and started our podcasts around the same time. So I'm curious, tell the listeners that little bit of a journey and why you chose your name and what your podcast is about.
Thank you. And I can say the full name, that's okay?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. So the name of my podcast is Scared as Fuck and Doing It Anyway, Showing Up Authentically. And the name was born out of, so I knew I wanted to do a podcast about authenticity, right? Because that's been my most recent journey. And I feel like, oh my God, just so much has come alive in me as I become more of my true self. And so we were, I was in this podcasting program with you and it was like an 8-week program. And we were like, I don't know, I didn't move forward for 4 or 5 weeks because I was sitting there really scared. And I had picked out a different name. It was called Paving Your Own Way, The Road to Authenticity. And I'm working on my cover art, when I'm doing these things and I'm like, God, this name is just so boring. It's so boring. And I was really, really scared to do it, right? To just like get in front of the mic and start talking. And so I wasn't making very much progress. And I'm sitting here at my desk one day, just bawling my eyes out. And my wife comes around the corner and she's like, what's wrong, honey? What's wrong? And I'm like, I'm just so fucking scared. And I'm like, that's it. Scared as fuck and doing it anyway. And then that felt more like my personality, and a little bit more exciting. And so like when I had my new name, I was able to move forward.
I remember when you shared your name. There was a huge difference from the first one that you said to then when you were sharing the second one, you were like, on fire, all this energy. Like there was so much more behind it when you shared it. And I remember we were all like, that's what it is. Like, look at how it's like lighting you up. So that was really cool to be a part of that experience with you and you sharing it with us and us like cheering you on with how amazing that is.
Thank
What
you.
what like tell us a little bit more about what your podcast is about and where people can find you if they want to listen to your podcast.
So yeah, my podcast is about, shedding the conditioning that we've all gotten that keeps us small, right? It's for people who have all the things that they say should make you happy, but you still feel deeply unfulfilled and like something's missing. It's for the people who are doing what they should do. I'm using air quotes rather than what they want to do. It's for all of the people out there trying to do the right thing, trying to be a good girl or a good boy, like, oh God, it just makes my skin crawl when I say that because I did it for so long and it didn't serve me. So it's for all the people who are checking the boxes for society rather than for themselves, who are, constantly abandoning themselves, by not choosing themselves. Because that's who I was, that's who I am. I mean, it still creeps up sometimes for me, and so that's who I want to connect with, those people. That's who I'm talking to. That's who I want to help and serve and connect with. So it's all about overcoming all of those things, right? Finding the love, helping people love themselves again so that they're confident enough to bring their authentic selves forward. And so I do some meditations on there. I've put out a mini sound bath. I have some solo episodes that I've been asked to put out that I'm working on. And then I just interview people, and it's really talking to people about their journeys and, how did they overcome the conditioning and being someone who was really other than their true selves, and what are the tools and practices that they're doing on a daily basis to keep themselves in their authenticity and to be confident there. So that's what my podcast is all about, and you can find it on any of the podcasting platforms, Apple, Spotify, all the places. And if you just look up Scared as Fuck and Doing It Anyway, you'll find me.
I love it. I love it. I love the space. I love the name. I love everything. I think you're great. And I think that what you're creating is going to be pretty powerful and touch people in a lot of ways. So I think it's great.
Thank you.
So I like to ask all of my guests who are on, because we wear many hats. We've been through different journeys, life experiences, gone through some things, come out on the other side in different ways. And so I always like to ask people, what they think their superpower is.
Yeah, I think I have a couple. I would say my courage is one of my superpowers, because although I wasn't living authentically all my life, I was still doing like courageous things. And that's one thing that's just been a theme throughout my life. I'm a Leo, so I'm not, it's not like really that surprising. And the fiery name for my podcast isn't either. Right. But I always find the courage to do it, like just jumping off the cliff from my corporate job. I just quit. I was just done. So I just freaking quit. I was only a year away from their retirement requirements and I still quit. So courage. Holding space for others is another one of my superpowers. I'm finding, and I hear feedback all the time, that I really provide a safe place for people to really be themselves and to be accepted and loved in my presence. And so I think that's another one of my superpowers.
I love both of those. Those are so great. Thank you for sharing them.
You're welcome.
Thank you so
Thanks
much
for asking.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here and sharing all of your story and your journey and your wisdom with what you've done to get through that. I think it's amazing and great. And I'm so happy that you were on the show.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. It was great being here with you. I love you so much. And thank you for having me on.
Yes. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, learned something new, or got some gems to take away that will boost your week. I release a new episode each week, so make sure to click that follow button to not miss what is coming next. If you love the show or want to share a story, send me a quick message. I love hearing from listeners. If you know someone who needs this episode in their life, go ahead and share it with them. I'm sure they would love you for it. If you are looking to connect more, check out the show notes for all the social links, my website. I would love to hear how this episode helped you and what you loved about it. If there's a topic you want to hear about, send that too. All right, ladies, now is the time to release your inner power.